The Book of Allah, also known as Liber Alva Legis, is the central text of the religion of Thelema, and is at the same time seen as a Class A document by serious practicing Thelemites. In the Book of Allah, Aleister Crowley claims to have channeled the message of the Book of Allah by his holy guardian angel known as Iwas. The Book of Allah on the surface level seems to be a rejection of conventional and orthodox dogmatism, and instead instates what Crowley believes to be the aeon or epoch of Horus, and where do it thou wilt should be the law, love is the law, love under will, as the Book of Allah famously says. But within the constraints of the Book of Allah is not just this instatement of Thelemic principles. Within the Book of Allah is also hidden encryptions and hidden codes that Crowley believed was conjecture for a future generation to decode. Within this video, we as the Ikhwan Astahab, or the Brethren of Gold, would like to present to you using Judaeo and Islamic numerology to decode the codes in the Book of Allah. Ready? Let's get started. The purpose this video serves is to bridge a gap between two unlikely candidates for what could be the roots of the Book of Allah. You see, most people will agree that Christianity and Hermeticism heavily influence this book, but the influence of Judaism and Islam is definitely there, but people just don't see it yet, and this video will reveal it. So, what verses of the Book of Allah are we going to use to bridge the gap between Judeo-Islamic occultism and it? The two verses we're going to be using is firstly chapter 1 verse 46 and then chapter 2 verse 76. The methods we're going to use to decode these two verses in the Book of Allah is by using chapter and verse numbers of the Torah and the Quran, as well as using iconic numbers that are associated with the Jewish and Islamic faith. So let's get started. So starting with the first verse we're going to use in this decode, chapter 1 verse 46, and where Crowley says, "Nothing is a secret key of this law. 61 the Jews call it. I call it 8, 80, 418. What exactly does this mean? Is it just a random assortment of numbers, or does it have an actual meaning to it? I think it has an actual meaning to it, and this is what I think it is. The key to understanding this verse is to realize what the it factor is in question with this verse, i.e., what is the it that the Jews call 61 and Crowley calls 8, 80, 418? The it is the law itself. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why I believe I know that, is because chapter 1 verse 46 starts with, "Nothing is a secret key of this law." So the Jews call the law 61. Does this hold any validity in actual Jewish numerology? In my opinion, it does, because in the Torah, the base scripture for Judaism, also known as the Jewish law, they have a total of 613 commandments, which if you guys caught it there, that's 61, 61-3 to be exact, 613, 61-3 to be exact. And how do we know this is actually lining up with the verse in the Book of Allah? Well, 61 plus 3 is 64, and 64 is just 46 per verse, as in chapter 1 verse 46. But here's the thing though, this leaves us with another question. The Jews don't call the law 61, they call it 61-3, they call it 613. So where is the 3 present in this decode? So guys, the question is, where is the missing 3 in the 613 code that Crowley used for the Book of Allah? The significance and the finding of the missing 3 lies within the codes that Crowley used for the law itself. So Crowley says that he uses the numbers 8, 80, 418 to describe the law. So if we add 3 to each of those numbers, 8 by 3, 80 by 3, 400 by 3, and 18 by 3, we get the number 518. There are 613 commandments total in the Torah. 613 subtracted by 518 equals 95. 95 divided by 5 equals 19. What is the significance of a number 19? Well, in Deuteronomy chapter 31 verse 19, we get the 613th or final commandment of the Torah. Can you guess what this commandment is? Well, the rabbis say that the commandment that the 613th commandment is in Deuteronomy 31:19 is for people to create a Sefer Torah or a law book. It is to create a book of law. It is basically to create a Torah or a copy of the Torah for the practitioner of the Jewish faith. So, with that being said though, we now know that there's an allusion to chapter 31 verse 19 and where there is the secretion of the Torah in there. But what about the number 31? Where can we synchronize the number 31 in this decode? Well, it's real simple, guys. The way we find a synchronization of 31, as in Deuteronomy 31 verse 19, is by reversing the 46 in the book of Allah chapter 1 verse 46 to make 64. If we add 64 by 31, we get a number 95, which again, like we said, can be reduced to 19. So no matter which way you guys go, we see the signification of the 613 commandments being referenced in the book of Allah. And it seems that Crowley is making the implication that this book, the book of Allah, is a culmination of all 613 commandments. Oh yeah, and one could not fail to mention the icing on the cake of this decode. This being that 46 plus 13, which is 31 reverse, equals 59, which is, 95 reverse. Ya dig? Finally, in this video, we're going to cover the second and last verse that we're going to be using in this decode to show the Judeo-Islamic origins of the Book of Allah. And this is chapter 2, verse 76. So let's pull it up. What is chapter 2, verse 76 in the Book of Allah? Chapter 2, verse 76 of the Book of Allah gives us this very encrypted and secret code that Crowley himself believed the future generation was going to decode. What can we do with this code that Crowley gave us? Well, first of all, we can turn the letters into numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that. If you guys observe the purple text below, we turn the letters into numbers. Now that we have the letters into numbers, we can decode the code. But what are we going to decode it with? I have something very cool to show you guys. Have you ever heard about the verses of prostration in the Quran? The 15 verses of prostration? Well, you're in for a treat, because here's what they are. So guys, the 15 verses of prostration in the Quran goes as follows. If you guys look at the image above. If you guys notice, in the scale of 1 to 15, there's a middle number of 2560. Now, there is actually a deeper mystery and a deeper synchronization between the Book of Allah and 2560 that I'm going to leave up to your guys' interpretation in the comments below. But what I am going to show you guys instead is me adding everything that leads up to the middle number 2560 with the numbers in the Book of Allah. When I do that, I'm going to compare and contrast it with the rest of the numbers of the prostration verses. But for now, I'm going to add up every single number that leads up to the middle with the code of the Book of Allah. You ready? Let's do this. Okay guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to add all of the numbers like digit by digit up towards the halfway point of the verses of prostration. And we're going to add them up with each and every single one of the codes or the variables in Crowley's code in the Book of Allah. When we do this, we add them all together, we get the number 570. 570 divided by 5 equals 114, which is the total amount of chapters that are in the Quran. But it gets even deeper than that. What if we were to compare and contrast 570, what we added with the first half of the code, with the second half of the verses of prostration in the Quran? What happens if we do that? Well, let's see. So, we add the rest of the verse numbers, the verse and chapter numbers together that make up the verses of prostration in the Quran, we get the number 661 or 661. What is the significance of the number 661? Well, before we do the mathematics with it, already the first chapter of the Book of Allah has 66 verses in it. So if you guys notice, 66:1 in reverse could be 166. And like I said, chapter 1 of the Book of Allah has 66 verses in it. Second of all, if you take 66:1 or 661 and subtract it by 570, which is the number we got previously in the decode, you get the number 91. What is the significance of 91? Well, if you guys notice, 91 is 19 in reverse, and 19 is the final number in this decode. 19. You guys see that right there? 19? Good. Another thing, too, is that 19 is a multiple or a factor of 114. And we got 114 in the previous part of the decode, if you guys look back in the video. But there's another thing I want telling you guys about the number 19. What is it? What's the significance of the number 19? The number 19 is a very crucial number in Islamic numerology. The reason being is that it is the total amount of Arabic letters that are in the first ever verse of the Quran. This being Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which means in the name of God, the most merciful, the especially merciful. This is called the Basmalah or the Bismillah, and it is used to invoke intentions, secretions, and beginnings of any sort of prayer, ritual, or ceremony that is in the Islamic religion. What if I were to tell you that within this 19-letter code also has a correspondence to Thelemic numerology? Well, you guys are in for a treat, because the connections between Islam and Thelema don't stop with this video. In fact, I actually made an entire book signifying and bridging the gap between Islamic numerology and Thelemic numerology, and how these two actually compare and contrast with each other. This book is called The Blinding Wings, and I wanted to wait to the end of the video to plug it for you guys, because I don't want to just give you guys a mid-roll or beginning advertisement. But this is one of my best works yet, and it would mean a lot to me if you guys financially supported these videos by buying the book, because I'm not monetized on YouTube, and I don't think I ever will be, because my videos are just too niche for that. But yeah, regardless though, thank you guys so much for watching. Please, please, please order a copy of The Blinding Wings, because I think The Blinding Wings is one of the best works I've done so far, and can also like bridge a huge gap between the religion of Thelema and then the occult and mysticism of Islam. So if you guys would like to see more explanations of how basically the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim connects with the Book of Allah, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.